All right, we are 4 minutes late. I am so sorry. I also realized that I am battling the post-lunch slowdown.
Did you not go get any sugar?
I really want a cookie, but but I would make it 6 minutes late, and that would be on. I think Chad is kind enough to get me a cookie. So thank you so much for coming to my talk. I will try to be as excited, or I am excited, but as exciting as possible. So I hope it doesn't distract you, because that makes me walk around more. So at least maybe you can move your head. So we'll see. And hopefully the topic is interesting as well. I also lied, not on purpose, but it's not about organization. We're not going to cover project organization. So I apologize for that. If you're deeply disappointed, I will understand why you want to walk out of this session, because we're not going to talk about organization. We are mostly going to talk about tools. Okay, so I feel like I've met some of you guys before, so I apologize. I have one joke about this slide. Actually, I have two. One of them is that I'm not a fireman. That's okay. The other one is that I make it really easy for people to follow me on Twitter, because my handle's Kucharski. You know, it's not that easy, because it's hard to. Yeah. Yes. All right. So I'm the founder, engagement management, and many different hats of Promet Source. That's an easier thing to handle. So Promet Source is an open source development company. We founded in 2003. We pivoted in 2008 to solely focus on Drupal. That's some of us here. We are most of us are in Chicago. We have an office in San Jose, and then we have some people all over the place, all over the world. All right, so our objectives here are to lay out some project management organization. Oh my gosh, Chad, thank you. Yes, this is going to be my reward. I will. We'll take a vote, and if I did a good job, I will have the cookie, and if I didn't do a good job, we'll distribute it among everybody else. No, that would be a terrible idea. I'm motivated by this cookie right now. All right, so what we decided to do, over the years, we've looked at different tools to help us manage our company and our projects. And this year, we decided to share our process and how we got to where we are with the world. So we created this presentation, and it's a personal story, because we're sharing some of the pain points that we went through. So we're being very honest in how we got here. So we're going to talk about the things that we tried and tools that we used, and some lessons learned on how we use them to execute Agile projects and Agile communicate with our clients more efficiently and communicate between ourselves. It's a spoiler alert here, I guess. I was working on this presentation really late last weekend with two of our other project managers, so I'm going solo for the first time, and I noticed that there's a spoiler alert. We ended up with Redmine. That's a good thing, but here it is, and the reason why we feel, so the conclusion is right here. It's awesome for Agile project management. It's client management, very client. We've made it client-oriented. We use it for product management and looking at the entire business. So I'm running Promet Source, which is part of my responsibilities is to kind of run this thing. I also, in the past, had my hand in running some projects. So there's a lot of challenges involved in running a project, especially, it actually doesn't even matter if they're that big, even on some small projects, right? Time tracking, bug tracking, keeping set of requirements, emails are going all over the place. How are you going to try to go back? I mean, I like that. Even though we use Google application, like searching through thousands of emails that come through, it's just become such a pain trying to organize that stuff. Team collaboration, calendaring, keeping projects on track, knowing what people are doing, going back through and doing reviews, looking at performance and looking why certain issues are being opened so many times, and looking back on projects and doing retrospective, trying to get some data out of that, like all these kind of like good ideas that we really want to do, but our current tool set doesn't allow for, things that we do every day, but we really don't really like the tools, or maybe going back and forth between like 10 tools, which in itself, like you need a tool to manage all the tools that you're using to manage your projects, right? All these kind of problems can happen, and different people are using different tools or finding solutions around this. And these are some of the things that we're going to talk about and how we found what works for us right now. Does this kind of sound familiar? Oh, yes. All right. Okay, so I think the guy who put this together was an MBA or something, but he divided it into 4 quadrants. We have the 4 quadrants of problems, and let's cut it up and divide it up. So he was right, actually. So project documentations. Let's look at what are the tools that do wiki management, documents. How do we manage that? That is the core repository for project artifacts. Project management. So I'm interested in stories and how do we look at issues and how it ties into that issue and development work. How does that tie into Git? And then how do we manage Git repositories per project? Management information. Some of the things that we use to track our company performance, or maybe you want to keep track of your team performance, or maybe a department if you're from a university, or maybe your subcontractors, or whatever it is. How do we manage their time? How do we manage the commit activity? How do we know what kind of workflow we're getting through them? What's the average? How do they compare? How much time are we spending on this entire effort? How much time are we spending not on any effort? How much time is going to internal projects? So management. And then, communication, status, activity stream, what's happening. I went away on vacation for a week. I was at DrupalCorn, and I have no idea what's going on. How can I quickly find out what's up? All right, so we're going to talk about some of the tools that we looked at. If you have looked at some of these tools, please help me and share with the group, because I have personally not used all of them. When I gave this presentation last time, I had 2 folks who added to the brain trust because they have used them. I have maybe looked at them. So Open Atrium, I have asked Frederick to come and join me and talk about Open Atrium. It just so happens that he's giving a presentation in that room right now. So we're going to have to go solo. Open Atrium is a Drupal 6 tool that was initially developed by Development Seed. It is open source. It is now being taken care of by Phase 2. It's a Drupal Basecamp-like tool. It's pretty awesome concept. We did evaluate it at one point. I was not the evaluator. However, we came to the conclusion that it didn't meet our needs. It does have a lot of neat tools in it. It has calendaring. It has organic groups so you can collaborate. It's got issue tracking. It's pretty configurable. It's open source, so you can actually extend it as much as you want it, as much as you want to extend it. Anything else? Anybody else have anything else to say about it? Ooh, what are the drawbacks for Open Atrium? We felt that the issue tracking was not as robust as we wanted it to be. I think I recall. Yeah, it would have been awesome. It's kind of like totally eat your own dog food because it's based on Drupal. And we looked at it probably 2 years ago already, but yeah, we chose not to use it. So Basecamp, who uses Basecamp? Yeah, right? It's like, yeah, so somebody's making a not so nice face about Basecamp. It is pretty user-friendly. They actually had an outage yesterday. It was kind of interesting to see because they're usually pretty good about uptime. Basecamp, we started using Basecamp a long time ago, and a lot of people who we first introduced them to Basecamp, they thought it was like the best thing ever, because once you get an email on a thread, you can just respond to your email, and that information stays in that project. Automatically, it's nicely filed. If you don't like to use email, you can go back into that tool, look at your project, and see what the activity stream was. It was great because you were able to share information. You don't get plugged, you don't get clogged up with big files in your email. You just get a link to that file. So it is pretty user-friendly. I personally found it that it's great during discovery process, maybe through the design process when you're sharing a lot of information back and forth. It falls down when you're trying to use it as an issue tracking, and there isn't a lot of extensibility to that tool. But it is very popular. It is not open source. It is a closed source system. Okay, so here's where I can use some of your help. Atlassian has a wonderful set of products. Jira, one of them being a bug tracker, and they have added Confluence Team Calendars, Fisheye, Greenhopper, and Stash, and have a full set of applications that are pluggable on top of it. It is not open source. Who has used Jira here? Wow, that's amazing. No one has used Jira. Who's heard of Jira? Oh my gosh, that's more amazing. So why did you guys not use it?
Use Redmine.
Good answer. Wow, that is so wild. Okay, great. I mean, we've used Jira. I've actually clicked through on some tickets. Some of our larger enterprise clients use Jira. It kind of plays nicely into that. They do have a lot of information that's available, the customization of their workflows. The tools are a little bit more UI oriented than I find Redmine. It is a SaaS model. I think actually you can download a Jira, right? I think there is a model I don't think so. Oh, there's a free. Actually, there is. There's a free version up to 10 people. Actually, I saw a leaflet from them on the table. Is that person here that had that? No. Okay, Assembla. That is a good tool to use to manage Agile development. Again, I have not used this, but if you have used it. Chad, what do you say about it?
I used it. I found the UI on it cumbersome and not very intuitive. It took a while to get going on it. I just didn't feel like it threaded things very well, or it was very intuitive of where things were left. And it feels like seconds go by.
Okay, thank you for that. Bugzilla. Oh, who's used it? You guys have been around for a while. Yay! So that's like an older tool. It's a Mozilla Foundation, right? Bugzilla. Do they still use it? It's good bug tracker. Didn't extend for us that much. All right, old school Mantis. Who's used Mantis? Oh, I've used Mantis. Not anymore. That's really an old school bug tracker. It's a bug tracker. Like, that's basically it. It was popular at one point. Come on, it was. Harvest. So we're now moving beyond bug tracking and some of the and maybe just file management. So Harvest is an application that keeps track of your time. It has nice APIs. There's client. It has desktop applications that will be able to keep track of your time and report back. FreshBooks. FreshBooks is another. Yes.
No,
you're using FreshBooks. So tell us about FreshBooks.
I'm really only using it for invoicing, for
Mhm.
time tracking and invoicing, and I really like it. But that's because I have struggled with keeping track of my time. I'm independent, so it's just me keeping track of my own time. And if I don't turn something on, but for me it's useful.
Yeah. No. That is true. I have. I've seen a lot of freelancers use FreshBooks, and they really like it. It is a little limiting in terms of that it's focused on time tracking and invoicing, and it does those two functions really nicely. It is not open source.
And it's free if you're an individual.
It's free if you're an individual. Okay, cool. I did not know that.
Clients and
Yeah, with a limited number of clients.
yeah.
Oh.
Just say from my FreshBooks experience, little sort of add-ons, like the little time tracker Android application is really handy and stuff. And so
Android app on. Yep.
yeah,
Just really quickly on that thing, there's one called Last Five. If you've used that, if you have a Mac, it's the handiest little time tracker you ever have. You set it to pop up. You set it to pop up. Increments, either 10, 15, and a half hour increments. And it'll say, what have you been working on? And you've got it set up. So I've got it, and you set up your category. So I'm like, this project, click, save. I've got my time
This is
So now
true.
you know.
He is the worst time track keep track.
Oh, and that, and it's like, it made my life a thousand times easier without thinking about it.
It's a source of friction.
Yeah, and it's such a minutia snippet, but it's
I'll put that up there. That's actually a good point. And we'll probably write our own app that integrates with Redmine.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, and they're working right now trying to integrate that with others. They were talking about what many good, and I'm trying to get them to do with Redmine.
Cool. QuickBooks. QuickBooks. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Is there any other comments on FreshBooks or last five? Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut it off. I'm happy for discussions. Okay. QuickBooks. So QuickBooks. We've had some experience with QuickBooks, and since 2003, we've used 2 iterations of their time tracking software. The last one was in Flash, and they discontinued it, and it was a pain to use anyway. So I think they probably have some other products, but the one that was compatible with what we were using was not so good. GitHub. I mean, GitHub just got tons of funding. They're expanding their tool set not to just be the version control, but they have a nice suite of project management like functionality around their projects and teams. Even a lot of our clients are using the private version of GitHub for repositories. They're not using the GitHub the social part of or managing the projects yet. Actually, we haven't seen one, but it's out there, and they do a really nice job on the team collaboration aspect, right? So, so we looked at some of these tools. We used a lot of these tools, and one of the things that we found is that some of the tools that we're using did 1 or 2 things really, really well, but then we were using multiple sets of tools that didn't talk to each other. And so we really wanted that holy grail of having a tool set that integrates a lot of different functions that we wanted to use. So communicating back to our clients, having transparency, being able to run projects, whether they're Watergel or Agile, being able to keep track of issues, and so we kept on looking. And so we had another sit down after using some of these tools, and we said, what is it that we want to, let's put some framework around what we're looking for. Let's put some requirements around that. So we definitely wanted it to be open source. We're an open source company. I wish I could say that around iOS. We do some iOS work, so we can't say that. We're just but most of the work that we do is iOS. Drupal, open source. So we wanted it to be open source. We were hoping that if we do make any modifications, we're able to make modifications, and B, if we make them, we can contribute it back to the community. Of course, we wanted it to be secure, extendable, as I said. We wanted to extend it to our clients. We believe in complete transparency, so as we're building projects, we want to make sure that they have visibility into what our developers are doing. They can send information back and forth. They can see the schedules. Good news or bad news, we just wanted to make sure that it's out there. And we did want it to be self-hosted, or we wanted to choose where it's hosted. All right, so Redmine. Who's using Redmine here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, you guys don't. All right. Yes. 5. Okay. Redmine is a open source project. It's an issue tracker, but it has a lot of plugins like modules. So when I say plugin on Redmine, it's actually like a module in Drupal. It is Ruby on Rails. So we are contributing to it, but there's a little bit of a not everyone can do it on our team. So there's a little bit of a change if you're a Drupal developer or a PHP developer. It's pretty active. There's 5,300 repos. That's a pretty big number. It's pretty widely used. We actually have a Redmine group on GDO. We also, whenever we talk about it, we get a lot of feedback where people have either tried it or are using it right now. There is a fork of the Redmine project. It's called the Chili project. So that is a little bit interesting, and we're watching that. because some of the core developers that started Redmine have forked it. So we'll keep on watching that. Okay, so I'm going to go through, we're doing pretty good on time. I'm going to go through some of the features, basically some basic configurations and some of the things that we have done with Redmine, and then I'll kind of wrap it up with how we're using it and particularly how I use it from a pretty high level in managing all the different projects that we have and all the folks that work with us. So it has multiple project support, right? So you can manage many projects on it at the same time. Pretty extensible and flexible roles, just like Drupal. You can assign permissions by projects. You can assign permissions by, so you can create certain workflows for it. You can do a lot with permissions just by configuring it. It is very flexible on issue tracking. This Gantt chart calendar is a really nice plugin. We use that especially if folks who we're working with really like Gantt charts or Microsoft Project. It has feeds and email notification, Project Wiki, so all of these things. It's pretty good. So I'm going to go through all of these and how to configure that. So can you guys see this okay? All right. Yeah, this is an issue screen. This is a brand new issue screen. It's pretty much like any issue that you would log. You have a title, you have different trackers, so trackers that you can use to aggregate time or you can do reporting on trackers. So whether you're doing support or we do things like on a project we have planning, support, site building, theming, development, project management, meetings, and we can do reporting on all of those different trackers. But that's completely configurable. You can set that up, and then we really push hard to fill out all of these fields. I know it may seem like a lot, but it's actually not. You can do it in 30 seconds or less because the more information that we have in every issue, we have so much richness back on that because we can do so much more reporting. For example, I'll show you guys the Gantt chart, but if you set your issues to a start date and end date and you estimate your time, then you can build Gantt charts on your projects with issues because you have that information. You have all that information that you get in a project task, right? So this is a project issue summary screen. It has some capability for us to multi-select and right-click on that web browser to do things to those issue or many issues. So from that screen, you can do things like change priority, change status, edit that project, move it, delete it. So it's pretty rich right there. So here's that Gantt chart that I was telling you about. So you can Gantt chart it out of the box. If you are diligent about the way that you're inputting your issues and creating them, you can do cross-project Gantt charts. You can also do things like resource allocation. So it'll help you level your resources because if you assign resources as you're planning your project, then I don't have this screen pasted in here, but it can help you. There's a module or a plugin that allows you to help you level your resources, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. Like in Microsoft Project, if Andy has 50 tasks for 150 hours in week 1, it will show you that Andy is overloaded, right? So that's resource leveling. So it's got some really nice graphical capabilities right out of the box. You have to input your issues to be able to do that. So workflow. So you can edit. You can customize it as you get it out of the box to meet your process. So workflow. So this allows me to control whether my development team can close issues or whether my client can reopen them. Right? So you can really customize your workflow. You have your own states that you can add in here. You can order them. You can control who's able to change to who. So if I want to control the fact that I want to review or a QA or a project manager reviews every resolved issue by the developer before it's closed, I just disable the developer to close an issue. The roles themselves, not only do they have permissions on what they can do, you can set permissions to what modules they have access to. This is pretty cool. I'm going to come back to this. So as you're working with Git, if you tag your issue and you submit it, you just put in a hash ticket number, and it automatically attaches to your issue. So from Redmine, I can drill down project issue, and I can look at all the Git commits on that issue. So, and then I can do, this is a diff view on the development tasks. Okay, so There's reporting tools. So this is really the stuff that I like a lot. I can take a look at, and this is from a sandbox example from Redmine itself. I can take a look at how much time was spent on certain trackers and then activities within that tracker, and I can do that weekly, monthly, annually. I can even drill down to the activity itself or the developer itself, so I can really kind of already have some mining capability on that reporting right there. And it's really nice when you're managing a team or you're trying to do a retrospective on a project, or if you're running a large team on multiple projects and you want to see where the burn is going or what people are doing. We already touched on workflow. So trackers, we talked about that. So this is the first thing that you put in, some control there. This is what an admin interface looks like for us. So issue statuses, same thing. I can input new ones. I can choose which ones are which ones come up first in the drop down, and also what is considered closed. So for example, we have a parking lot status that we've introduced into our workflow, and that is considered a closed issue. So that is something that something that comes up and we decide not to act on it, but we want to have a clean view of our project. So we just say parking lot, and we have a separate report that pulls out all the parking lot issues when we're done with the project and we want to go back to it. But when we look at open issues, this is considered closed. So that's kind of a neat feature. Wow, I'm really stuck on. I really wanted to talk about this workflow, didn't I? And of course, custom fields, right? So it's kind of like the CCK for Drupal, the Redmine is. So we are able to add custom fields to many different content types, I guess. So here in Redmine, I can add a custom field to issues, spent time, projects, versions, users, groups, activities, and issue priority. So I can have extra fields assigned to that. So for example, on projects, so on our projects, we have a required field that when a project manager creates a project, it is required that they put in an initial estimated time budgeted for that project, and that comes up every time that project is somebody looks at that project. And then to the right, we have a plugin that tells us how many hours have already been used. And in our company, everybody does that in real time. Like, you have to do it every 5 minutes, right, Chad? No, not every 5 minutes. Kidding. This is another. So not only does it integrate with Git, but it has other version control systems that you can integrate with pretty much out of the box. So that's cool. It's got pretty user management. Oh, and so it's got views, kind of like views. It's got a issue. It's a query. So I can build my queries based on almost any field that is in Redmine, and then I can save my view or query, and then I can either share that query or I can keep it private. So if I really want to see what Chad is doing every day, I just have a view of his activity. Just kidding, Chad. I'm sorry, that's still not funny. No, but we're able to sort, create sorts on fields, and we can group them. So it really becomes another one of those reports that gives you information at a flash. So if I'm looking at high priority issues that are grouped by a certain project, and that's what I really care about because I just want to see how quickly they're being closed, I have a report that tells me what are the high priority issues that were closed in the 24 hours, or high priority issues that are open for longer than 24 hours. So I can create all those different views, and I can share them with my project managers. Okay, so since we try to run most of our projects in Agile, we are using this tool to also take a look at and group our builds into sprints, and then we can export this information and look at and run retrospectives and say, okay, here are the set of issues that were closed. How long did it take? How did it go? We can also we also have a story building feature. This is in Redmine as well. So we can take a look at and say, okay, here's a story. What are the issues that are assigned to that story? And you can really just drag and drop those issues So for those of you who are running Agile, this is a pretty neat tool. I should mention who uses or who's heard of Kanban? Kanbanery. So there's another way of managing your task or your project. So there's a methodology called the Kanban. It's from manufacturing methodology that was I think developed behind a Honda or Toyota plant floor, and it basically allows us to. So Kanbanery relies on a concept of workflows or streams and tasks that are being worked on right now, tasks that are blocked, tasks that are resolved, and tasks in a back queue. And our support team actually uses Kanbanery. We have found a way to very easily export the information from Redmine into Kanban. That's almost a separate talk on of itself, but I just wanted to mention that. So more settings, Git, source code. So I can also just explore the source code repository right out of Redmine without jumping to a different tool or without using my command line. We also have put together a process where we use wikis a lot to share information. So, we have 50 plus projects maybe at a given time running in Redmine, and we have created a template that we use for every project that we start. There's certain required information that a project manager must put in so that anybody coming into that project knows where to look for it and knows how to find it. So this is key information. So we have background, Drupal specs, all kinds of very useful information if you're running on that project. Yes.
So
This is
a viewish thing, or is it just text?
this is a wiki. So I'm not sure whether I have a slide on this, but we have Redmine has a concept of cloning a project. So as we start, we have different projects that are ready to be cloned. So for example, if I am going to create another department site at a university where we have a template already set up, I can create a set of issues or tasks that I know need to take place in order to make that work. And whether we automate that or not is another story. But so whether it's things like contacting and getting content, or creating a repo, or onboarding the project team, or getting approval, or whatever it is, I can set up those set of issues that I know are going to be repeatable, and other aspects of the project. And when I clone that project, all that stuff is there. So I pretty much have a template on how to run that particular project. So we have products like site review, so where we do some automated testing on the website, and then we do a manual review, and then we package that together to provide information to the client on how code standards have been followed, and we'll kind of load all kinds of information. So that those steps are cloned. Now, for more complex projects, the point that I was making here is that we have a templated wiki that would just say bracket need to fill out this information. This information, such as what the objectives and success factors are for the project, what version of Drupal, or where to get login information, or who to. Wow. Yes. Thanks, John. And then we're able to run reports like this and compare maybe different project managers that are running different projects, or take a look at projects that we think are similar and say, okay, how much time was spent on meetings in this project, or how much time are we spending in meetings with this particular client versus this particular client? How much development was this? How much site building was there? So we can get all this information by exporting the info that's in Redmine. We can take a look at how much time we're burning on a particular project or week. Resource allocation. Whoops. There's actually a really neat graph that we didn't put in here, but we were doing a retrospective at one point, and we pulled out a graph of who was involved. And this is a very simple project, and we thought like there's 3 people involved, and it turns out actually 8 or 9 people in our company touched that project because they all logged some time. So, whether they needed system administration help or whatever it was. So, some information that we dug out that we didn't even know about running our company was very useful. From a client perspective, we try to provide login. Well, we don't try. We provide login information to our clients. So there are some things that we limit. There are few things that we limit. But generally, our clients see everything that is going on. So projects, how much time is being spent on the projects, the comments that our developers are, or our project man, or our team is putting into the issue queue, the Git commits and comments. I mean, everything, right? So it's really neat because it's in real time. Our culture is such that it's in real time, and it's every day it gets updated, so you can take a look at it and see what's happening. If you're working on Agile, you can take a look at how much time I have left on a particular sprint and what's happening, what's my burn rate, those types of things. Oh, I already talked about templates here. Wow, okay, so I spent a lot of time talking about this during the wiki question, but it also helps us standardize our process, because all projects are basically managed in a very similar way. So it helps us onboard new folks as they come on board. They're able to, if somebody needs to, we try to obviously keep everybody in the same team on the same project. But if we have some changes, folks are able to, they know and are used to looking at where do I get this information about this particular project that I know is usually in a wiki, or I know it's in the document section. Oh yes, and we have also provided a lot of improvements to Redmine. So we contributed back to the Redmine, one or more Redmine projects. So we just rolled out private notes. I actually haven't tried it. Have you guys tried private notes yet?
No, we're really excited to have that.
No, I'm not that excited, but that's another meeting. So one of the things that we just recently released was private notes. Yeah, so we have there's capability for SSO. So if we need to do that, we can do that. Also, there is REST. It comes out of the box with web services, so we can tie in and pull information out of it. There's a bunch of iOS and Android apps that use that. So if you really wanted to have that information on mobile, you can use that, because all those API, those services, what's equivalent to services in Drupal comes with Redmine. And then so to wrap it up, wow, this is longer than I thought. I will wrap it up in 3 minutes. So I like this because let's say we're managing an account that has multiple projects underneath that. We can take a look at if I'm talking to the stakeholder or the account manager there, we can say, well, okay, here are the projects that we're running. Here's what the burn rate is. Here's what's happening. Here's where the activity is, or here's how we're transitioning the team. And I am able to really speak to numbers as they are happening. It's not just like wishful thinking, oh yes, we're wrapping this up. No, we're not wrapping it up because we just spent 50 hours on it last week, right? So there's a problem. I can see that. And we get that reporting in real time. And so it's not just like for billing purposes. I think that it's also very useful for any organization that's running a project or multiple projects to see where the time really is going. When you really start measuring that, you get you may surprise yourself to, when you think it's really spent on development, it's maybe really be spent on site building or vice versa. Or you think you're done with a certain project, but your team may really be still spending a lot of time there. So that's really become useful for us and helpful. I can really then drill down. So what did you guys see here? So this is a program where we have 4 projects going in, and I just said I would like to see details of activity by month and by tracker. Actually, not yet by tracker. This is just by month, by project. And then I drill down further, and I say I want to see it by tracker. So what did I do in my the second project? Most of it was some of it was support. Majority of the work was on QA and test. Majority of it was on site building, and just a little bit of, on development. or a deployment. So I can drill down, and then I can drill down even further, and I can say what issues, or I can go back up and I can say who did what at what time, or I can say I can look at information and run it by issue tick and highlight some of the issues that took longer and go back in a retrospective and see why did those issues take so much time. We also put in time, so time entry. We try to make it a little bit easier. We don't have that app that Chad was talking about, but you can take a look at. This is a person's personnel view of their time spent, so you can see how much time is adding up every day a week, what issues I'm working on. I can jump in and edit those issues and add my time or subtract time or modify it. As you can see, we're pretty diligent about the amount of time. We keep it down to like 5-minute increments, which is crazy sometimes. And then we can export that information and run some nice graphs, which sometimes visually being able to see that information is pretty helpful. One of the things that we also do once a week is just to do a check on what folks are working on. Is we can look at schedule per person, what they're working on. And so, for example, if I drill down to Brant's time, I can see that we've allocated some work for him to a client and then some work to Drupal.org or something like that. So, and then they can check and just do a reality check. Is this what my manager thinks I should be doing? Okay, so in summary, really allow us to better manage our projects. We have a lot of the information in one space. We are able to share information better with our clients and internally across different teams and projects. We can integrate with third-party tools, and we've consolidated it all in one system. So I'm happy to take questions, and that concludes my presentation. Yes.
Well, one thing I wanted to throw in, last year I worked on a project and we used fog bugs, which is kind of similar to how Redmine works. But it's real spendy, and that actually works really well. You can do a lot of email back and forth, and then we integrated with Beanstalk, which is like GitHub, another repo service. Those two worked really well together. So that was a good option. But I basically pushed for Redmine in the organization I'm working now. We're about a half dozen developer and project people, and for one thing, I should have installed Redmine 1.8 instead of Redmine 2 because kind of like when Drupal 7 came out, all the plugins weren't up to date and stuff. And so I struggled for quite a while because we have sort of templated sets of tasks. We didn't want to like clone projects like moving a site from around hosts and checkoffs like that. So I could not get this CSV Ruby plugin thing to work, which is really frustrating. And so the whole thing has been put on ice for the moment. But if I'd installed 1.8, I probably would have gotten caught on that. And I'm new to Ruby, so it took me a while to get it rolling. One other thing.
Right on.
One other thing was that if you make a subtask and you say that that's due like Tuesday, there's like no way to set the parent task to be due Friday. Like all the times like percolate upwards into the parent, and it becomes like kind of fixed. And that was really weird. And I think there's like an override for that, but it wasn't available for 2. So
okay.
I had my Redmine battle recently, but I like it.
I totally agree. So I should have definitely mentioned that. It does not come without its own set of problems, and that is a very good one. We have found that some of the plugins or modules that we really wanted to use and we are not on 2. We are on 1.8 or 1.7 or maybe even 1.6. I don't remember. I can find out. But yes, that was a problem. So we had to go in and spend our own time to upgrade those modules so they work with the latest version, and they're abandoned. I mean, that's kind of a familiar problem, I guess, if you're working with Drupal, but it's Ruby, so now you have to like find resources for.
We got lucky. We had someone that was willing to get back into Ruby.
Yeah, but that.
Did a good job at it. They like it, so.
Yeah, but that is definitely a very good point to bring up. It's not without its own set of problems.
Yeah. It's awesome from like not being on the management side of it. Like originally, like I hate time tracking. I just hate it. Like I always feel like it's what we found to be awesome about it from our standpoint was like having sales or management like, how did you do this and that? It's like put in Redmine. documented, it's ticketed, it's assigned. It's like I don't have to deal with it. It's just there, and I can work on it.
Yeah.
You know, it makes that workflow so much better, and I can
Yeah.
go back to. I've been back through our Redmine several times looking at solutions to other problems. I'm like, well, what the hell do we do on that?
Right.
Like, let me just look.
Yeah.
It's a lot handier than what I thought it was going to be. At least, and even for us, because I'm like, I get the management side of it. It makes sense. I understand it, but it doesn't mean anything to me.
And you don't accumulate useful information in Basecamp.
No, not at all. Like I try to avoid that like the plague, honestly.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So would you recommend, let's like step up to like starting from a single individual, you're working for yourself, to having more and more people on your team? When does it make sense to use Redmine? Are there other tools that work best with your individual?
Well, would I recommend using Redmine? At what point would I recommend using Redmine? I would recommend using Redmine right from the start. Out of the box, without any plugins, it's a pretty configurable tool that you can use issue tracking. You can use it for issue tracking. I think you have to add the time tracking. I think it's a plugin. I'm not.
Yeah, because that wasn't out of the box for us.
It doesn't, and that gets you basically a lot. It doesn't, it's not going to turn your time into invoices maybe automatically, but it gets you out a lot of the things out of the box. And for us, one of the things that we found that really paid off a lot, but we kind of had to tackle it from a change management perspective, was getting everybody to use it and to fill out all the fields. But now I feel like it's not a problem. Everybody just...
No, it works well, and it's like, and it also is too, so when you like hit up for an LOE, like go back, like, well, I don't know, 6 months ago we did that project. I don't
Level
know,
of effort.
I can go back and look at the LOEs on that, and be like, oh, this is what we really put in on that. So I'm going to shirt size it based off of that.
That's another way of putting down a level of effort without committing
He
to
doesn't
it.
believe in LOEs can be small, medium, or large on the beginning. Shirt size not an LOE, but like in mine it's like, I don't know, lots. You know, like I can't give you a time. I don't know anything else. You know, but it helps. It helps us too as employees. And trust me, I was super reluctant about, like, oh great, more management, awesome. It works. It works both ways. I get that aspect, but it really helps too. Like if you're part of a team, like you burn through, especially if you've got someone that's not in the same office.
But even as an individual, and I work with a couple of other contractors periodically, and I need a history of my projects. I've been doing this for a while, and my history. I have a scrambled mess of stuff. So
You look at old notebooks and like it's just.
Right, and I cruise back through my old proposals and go, oh my God, look at what I said it was going to be, So
Yeah, having that repository is pretty. I've already gone over. Sorry, so I'm going to leave one question, and then if you guys agree, I'm going to have my cookie. So one question. Any questions? No questions?
I have comments. But
Yes, please. All right. Well, thank you very much, and I'll listen to the. Thank you. Thank you.